Latest updates from Florida. Plus, get this, Jim Acosta, fake news CNN, they are now suing the president in a complaint that is chock full of abject lies and distortions. Acosta and his employer CNN, they're actually claiming that the White House is stripping his constitutional rights by not allowing him inside 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Jim must be really crying himself to sleep at night. All right, so coming up, we're going to break down the bogus lawsuit. We'll show you just how Jim's hyper-partisan, unprofessional behavior is unbefitting to the industry that he claims to be serving. And also tonight, we will preview a looming feud inside the Democratic Party between the far left and the far, far, far extreme radical left. And speaking of which, believe it or not, Hillary Clinton clearly may be gearing up for yet another presidential run. Also tonight, Monica Lewinsky speaking out about her infamous affair in the Oval Office. She wants an apology, and I think she deserves one. We'll show you the tape. Also, stay tuned. Got a lot to get to. Time for our breaking news opening monologue. All right, just a lot of ground to cover tonight. We will get it all in, and we begin in Florida, where the recount is moving forward, and barring any kind of disaster, Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott will rightfully be Florida's next governor and senator. Now, with that said, what we have seen out of liberal Broward and Palm Beach counties has been an absolute national disgrace. Over in Broward County, election supervisor Brenda Snipes magically just located over 75,000 new ballots days and days after the election. Now, earlier this week, a box containing provisional ballots was actually found by an employee at a rental car company left behind at an airport in Fort Lauderdale. Multiple state election laws, we now know they were broken, disregarded altogether. A court has ruled that Snipes acted inappropriately, and now the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement are investigating claims of criminal voter fraud. Now we have embattled election supervisor Brenda Snipes. She might be out of a job soon. Take a look.
But it is time to move on to let someone else, maybe be one of you guys out there who're steeped in election business. But I think I have served the purpose that I came here for, which was to provide a credible election product for our voters.
And tonight, losing her high-paying job may be the least of Snipes' worries. The Florida Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and Florida Senator Marco Rubio, they will be with us tonight. But first, Jim Acosta, desperately trying to get back into the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Last week, his White House pass was revoked after what was clearly unprofessional conduct, an incident where he just refused to give up a shared microphone. Shared, key word. Made contact with a White House intern who tried to take the microphone back. And literally, he wanted to debate the president of the United States after accusing him, well, pretty much of being a racist. Well, that's sort of like par for the course at fake news CNN. Take a look.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I
was
going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am.
Mr. President, that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question.
Let's go. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
Now, while Acosta's pass was revoked for his unprofessional conduct, no one else at CNN, by the way, is affected. Nobody. And by the way, the president answered his question. How many times does the president of the United States need to tell someone, a fame-seeking reporter, that's enough? That's enough. Now, CNN still has access to the White House. Acosta is still free to spew his anti-Trump hatred anywhere he wants, just not inside the walls of the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But now Acosta and CNN are suing President Trump and other officials in the administration. Now, the lawsuit laughably claims that Acosta's constitutional rights have been violated. The complaint also goes on to list the following lies as facts. They state that Acosta merely asked a question during the press conference. Well, you just saw it. That's a lie. He tried to grandstand. He gave his commentary, and he wanted to debate the president. Next, the suit suggests that Acosta didn't put his hand on the White House intern. Well, as you can see right there on your screen, well, the intern tried to get the mic back. There was contact. I'm not saying anything bad happened with that, but the complaint also claims Acosta has been a journalist. This is my favorite. For more than 2 decades and is widely respected for his diligence and independence. That's the biggest lie. Jim Acosta is a lot of things. He is not a fair, balanced, independent journalist. Now, he is a far left, grandstanding, sycophant, left-winger, capitalizing on his blatant anti-Trump bias. And his conduct inside the White House has been, frankly, a lot of times anything but professional. Take a look.
I'm not sure this press conference was ever on the rails. As you heard numerous times during this news conference, the president was just not in touch with reality. The people here who work at this White House all the way up to the president evidently believe that journalists are the enemy of the people, literally the enemy of the people. I'll say that the press is not the enemy of the people. And, I think, maybe we should make some bumper stickers, make some buttons.
Andrew?
The wall could be different than border security, Sarah. Border security can mean drones, it could mean agents, it could mean more fencing. It doesn't necessarily mean a physical
And that's part of the
wall
negotiation that we expect Congress to have.
But you understand Democrats are saying that they may not be in favor of this kind of deal. They say thanks, but no thanks for a wall.
Jim, I'm not negotiating with you. I'm going to let Congress take care of that.
What we're witnessing right now is just this erosion of our freedoms in terms of covering the president of the United States. I think that there are moments when this president is just really sensitive to criticism, and he lashes out. Last 3 news conferences, Wolf, all of the questions to the American news media have been handled by conservative press. And I think, Wolf, there's no other way to describe it, but the fix is in. The Statue of Liberty has always been
let me ask you a question.
Of hope to the world for people to
Jim, do you believe
people to this country?
Jim,
and they're not always going to speak English, Stephen.
Jim,
they're not
do you
always
believe
going to be highly skilled? They're not always
Jim,
going to be
Jim, I appreciate your speech.
I think we saw the president's true colors today, and I'm not sure they were red, white, and blue.
Not sure if they're red, white, and blue, true colors. That would be opinion. I thought he was supposed to be a journalist. Now, Jim Acosta's coverage of President Obama was actually a little different. Take, for example, this glowing coverage of Obama at his 2012 inauguration. Let's take a look.
Obviously, this is the moment that everybody is waiting for on Inauguration Day, when the president and the first lady step out of their limo and walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I feel like I should pinch myself right now, Wolf. I can't believe I have this vantage point of history in the making.
So you're literally, about 15, 20 feet away from the president?
I'm probably a good, I would say, 50 feet away from the president right now, Wolf. But very, very close.
Wow, it sounds like he had a thrill up his leg, like Chris Matthews. Anyway, Acosta's overwhelming bias, it's not shocking. In fact, he's pretty much towing the company line at fake news CNN. For 8 long years, they just worshipped Barack Obama. They loved the Clintons. Remember Clinton News Network? Now, CNN claims to be facts first, but in reality, they put their hatred for Donald Trump before anything else. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, pretty much. Take a look.
Is this president trying to impersonate Hugo Chavez, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Vladimir Putin?
What a great case officer Vladimir Putin is. He knows how to handle an asset, and that's what he's doing with the president.
When do we see almost a shadow government come out and say, we cannot side with the government?
Why is President Trump showing sympathy for white nationalists and other hate groups?
What does that tell you in an America that in one generation called you? What does that tell you, Don?
We can surely say his words have absolutely emboldened white supremacists.
He has given oxygen to racists. He is clearly trying to ignite a civil war in this country.
There's a sign out there that's been hung up in the White House or outside the White House saying, if you're not white, you're not especially welcome.
The president gets 2 scoops. Everyone else around the table gets 1. And no word if there were sprinkles.
If you think you've had an earful of Donald Trump, check out what's in the ear of a beagle in Britain named Chief. Brace yourself.
If he took a dump on his desk, you would defend it.
16 tweets today to start the new year, some of them deeply disturbing. These are the messages from a person who is not well, from a leader who is not fit for office.
Now, he's President Snowflake, okay? Everything he said, oh, they're mean to me and they don't like me and I just don't understand it and it's not fair.
This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part.
That's a lot of opinion by people that claim that they're journalists, left-wing opinion. Now, is anyone really surprised that the network that you just saw had their chief White House correspondent kicked out for unprofessional conduct? Now, the White House is classifying the Acosta suit as, quote, more grandstanding from CNN. Now, a law and crime website, it's a great website, op-ed, trashed the complaint, and renowned journalist Bob Woodward rebuked the lawsuit and called out the media becoming emotionally unhinged over Trump. The great one, Mark Levin, he just ripped and slammed the suit over the so-called constitutional issue, which is a farce. Take a listen.
You understand that there's nothing in the Constitution that compels the president to hold a presidential press conference, period. What's the court going to order him to hold one? There's nothing in the Constitution that compels the president to call on anyone from CNN, let alone Jim Acosta. Period. And Acosta does not have a constitutional right to disrupt the press conference, and CNN doesn't either.
And as per usual, CNN is all bark, no facts. We'll keep you updated on this ridiculous lawsuit. Now, you might have noticed that fake news CNN, conspiracy TV, MSNBC, other far-left outlets, well, they now seem to be avoiding any post-midterm election coverage. It's not an accident. Democrats had a historically very poor performance in last Tuesday's election. That's why they don't want to talk about it. Now, Republicans, yes, they lost the House, but they made gains in the Senate, something that has only happened 3 times in 100 years of midterm elections. 1994, let's look at the tape. Bill Clinton's first midterm election, they got shellacked. They lost 52 House seats and 8 Senate seats. It was even worse under Obama. He set a record. 2010, his first midterm, Democrats lost a whopping 63 House seats and 6 Senate seats. Now the Democrats are in disarray. Serious battle brewing tonight on Capitol Hill between far-left Democrats like Nancy Pelosi and even further left-wing Democrats like the socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, the 29-year-old incoming congresswoman from New York actually joined a climate change protest. Get this, outside of Pelosi's office. Take a look.
This is not about a personality, but it's to show whoever is speaker. And ideally, and what we see is that should Leader Pelosi become the next Speaker of the House, we need to tell her that we've got her back in showing and pursuing the most progressive energy agenda that this country has ever seen. That's right.
No moderates exist in today's modern Democratic Party. Now, this is the same incoming congresswoman who recently filmed her presidential aspirations on Instagram Live while making macaroni and cheese. The same incoming congresswoman who campaigned on a message of massive tax increases and a government nanny state. And meanwhile, other incoming members of Congress have they've come out against Nancy Pelosi, taking the gavel as Speaker of the House. Still, Pelosi, she's probably likely to become the next speaker. Many powerful Democrats are lining up behind her, including longtime Congressman Elijah Cummings. And now Pelosi and her allies, they're pulling out one of the Democrats' favorite political tactics in order to assure her speakership. It was in Politico today. But watch this, the gender card.
It's very important. You cannot have the 4 leaders of Congress, the President of the United States, these 5 people, and not have the voice of women, especially since women were the majority of the voters, the workers in campaigns, and now part of this glorious victory. When I came to Congress, there were 12 Democratic women. I said, we have to change this. Now we'll have close to 90.
Now, whether or not Nancy Pelosi becomes the speaker, let me be very clear, warn you once again, the Democratic agenda does not include making the lives of the American people better. Instead, What we now know, what they hid during the election, is their plan to use their power in the House for revenge. And by the way, they will do anything and everything in their power to bog down the administration with absurd investigations. And while House Democrats are plotting just revenge, they don't have any answer to President Trump in 2020, according to one former Clinton advisor. Hillary Clinton, get this, apparently seriously thinking about running again. We're going to have more on that. Jesse and Jessica will join us. But, you know, it's interesting to just watch all of this unfold in action here because, you know what? It's a good thing that the president campaigned hard and broke the trend that neither Obama or Clinton could. 3 new Senate seats. Republicans keep control in the Senate. And now we have more Clinton news out there as well, and their old baggage. 20 years after Monica Lewinsky became a household name, after then President Bill Clinton engaged in sexual misconduct with the White House intern, Lewinsky speaking out about the Clinton affair and the horrible damage that it did do to her life in a new documentary series for A&E, in an opinion piece in Vanity Fair about why she participated in the documentary. Well, Lewinsky says that if she saw Hillary Clinton, she'd find the strength. She said, if I were to see Hillary Clinton in person, I know I would summon up whatever force I needed to again acknowledge to her sincerely how very sorry I am. By the way, good for her. By the way, I think that's extraordinarily brave, gracious, and frankly honorable. Here's a clip from the documentary.
I felt terrible. I was scared and I was mortified and afraid of what this was going to do to my family. And, you know, I still was in love with Bill at the time. So I felt really responsible.
In the op-ed, Lewinsky also says she was disappointed that Bill Clinton said he didn't owe her an apology when he spoke with NBC News back in June. Take a look.
But you didn't apologize to her, at least according to folks that we've talked to. There was never an apology made.
I have not talked to her.
Do you feel like you owe her an apology?
No.
A lot of other people to apologize to. Apparently he's not up to the challenge. There's one standard of conduct for the Clintons, another for everyone else. Now, for years, the biggest Clinton apologists, well, they were members of Hollywood. Today, they're continuing to ramp up their vile, daily hatred campaign against President Trump and his supporters. Last night, deranged anti-Trump actor Robert De Niro, well, he continued to spew violent rhetoric while speaking at a Friars Club event in New York City using profanities and to urge the overthrow of the government. Now, of course, this type of sick behavior is nothing new. Advocating violence, using vulgar language, it's all part of a pattern from Hollywood, from the Hollywood left. I think an awful lot about blowing up the White House. They've been melting down since the day Donald Trump was elected before our very eyes. Common sense Americans know better than to buy into the hate that they're spreading, because that's exactly what it is. All right, we'll have a lot more on all of this throughout the hour. But first, joining us, we go back to our top story, and that is the shenanigans. What's going on in Florida? Joining us now, the Florida Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Pam, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Let's talk a little bit now. There is an investigation. What can you tell us about it?
Well, I, of course, will not go into any details about the criminal investigation, but I felt very strongly in my independent authority as chief legal officer and law enforcement officer for the state of Florida that we had to get the Florida Department of Law Enforcement involved in this, do interviews. There have been so many allegations, and right now that's all that there are. They're allegations. But I've had my prosecutors on the ground in Lauderdale. We have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement has also opened a tip hotline for folks to call. You can go on their website and get it. I can give it out. But if folks feel that they have seen evidence of fraud, call that in. We are clearly doing an investigation. We have made no conclusions, but this is about the integrity of our election process. And wherever it leads, we want to be sure that voters know that our process is going to be fair and legal, Sean.
We had a judge Friday say the Florida Constitution was violated. Look, the canvassing board, this is Florida law, shall report all early voting and all tabulated vote by mail results to the Department of State within 30 minutes after the polls closed. That didn't happen. Right. the canvassing board shall report, with the exception of provisional ballot results, and update the office every 45 minutes. We're supposed to have observers that are being in there. That didn't happen as well. 65 of the 67 Florida counties, including the Panhandle, 37 of those counties, or 35 of them, they were ravaged after the hurricane. They all got the job done.
That's right.
How is it that this keeps happening in Broward County?
Well, and that's what we're looking into, and that's what I can't go into in detail. But what you said was clearly laid out in the letter that I sent to Florida Department of Law Enforcement saying why we need to open a criminal investigation, and that has now been done. There is an active criminal investigation. At the same time, Sean, you know there are countless, at least 7 civil lawsuits filed by the DNC, by the ACLU, I believe, by the League of Women Voters, all these civil lawsuits, and they're basically trying to, as you know, throw out deadlines. So it would be the wild, wild west. I mean, without deadlines, how do you manage elections? And they also don't want to require signatures for provisional and vote by mail ballots. And
well,
let me make this very clear.
We know
Florida
that Snipes,
law.
Yeah, go ahead.
Florida law expressly and unambiguously states that you must have signature verification. So what they want to do, they want to change the law after the ballots have all been cast and go back retroactively and change our law, which is it's ridiculous. And Bill Nelson just needs to take a deep breath and concede gracefully and walk away from this.
Let me run down the list, if I may. We know that Snipes just, in the course of this election, mixed in rejected provisional ballots with several hundred valid votes. Well, that means it's corrupted. In August, the judge ruled that Snipes actually mishandled mail-in absentee ballots. In 2017, a judge ruled that she illegally destroyed ballots. Some Broward County officials in 2016 were poll results were reported before the polls closed. It goes back to 2012. It's every year, Pam.
And Sean, that's why I directed the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to open an investigation, not wait until this is over. They have opened an investigation at my direction, and that is ongoing and active criminally.
Right.
We have intervened in all the civil lawsuits that deal with the Constitution, and I feel we are on firm constitutional ground as well.
All right, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of Florida, thank you for updating us. We'll follow this criminal investigation closely. When we come back, Senator Marco Rubio, he was the first person to realize what was going on. We'll talk about that later. Reports tonight that Trump's legal team is finalizing their written answers to Mueller's questions. So will this so-called witch hunt finally be coming to an end? Catherine Herridge, Greg Jarrett, Monica Crowley, so much more. Straight ahead. You use the word steal. Do you believe there's been an effort here, corruption here, to steal an election?
Well, here's what I believe. I believe the law hasn't been followed from the beginning. Those early votes, the last time they were cast was the Sunday before the election. By law, those are supposed to be downloaded and sent to the state by 7:30 p.m. on the night of the election. And then you have to process the absentee ballots, the mail ballots that had come in before that time. And then there's always some that come in Monday and Tuesday before the election. Those should be shortly thereafter. They didn't follow any of that. There's always additional votes added to every county because people are voting from overseas or because you haven't fully processed all the ones that you had by 7:30. But you're supposed to update that every 45 minutes. They didn't do that. We know, for example, that as part of Broward County's vote count, it includes at least 19 people who were disqualified from voting by their own canvassing board, who they only took the ballots to after being forced, after being caught. And we don't know how many others that may have happened in. And now we know they didn't start the recount, the machine recount, until this morning. After everybody else started Saturday or Sunday. Miami-Dade is almost done. So it's irregularity after irregularity. And as far as stealing is concerned, let me just make this one point on that. That's what the election lawyers are not coming to Florida to make sure every vote is counted. The reason why election lawyers get involved is to make sure as many votes as possible for their client is counted and as many votes as possible for their opponent is disqualified. And when you have an election office this incompetent and this law breaking, it creates enormous opportunity for those sorts of arguments to be made. And suddenly the election's decided by a judge or by lawyers, not by voters the way they're supposed to be.
Well, we know, for example, that Snipes she mixed in rejected provisional ballots with a number of valid votes. So what that ultimately means, Senator, is that the entire count is irreversibly corrupted. And, we have all of these violations, 2012, 2014, 2016, 2017. Now it's happening again. I for the life of me, especially after all we went through, dimpled, pimpled, scattered, smothered, covered, and everything else in 2000, this keeps happening. There are 67 counties, 65 of them got it right. And more importantly, 35 of those counties had been victimized by the hurricane, especially the Panhandle. They got it right.
Yeah. And so when you talked about a case here, these provisional ballots they're in an envelope. And what's supposed to happen is you present those to the canvassing board to decide whether or not they're allowed to vote. She didn't do that. She opened it up. She basically decided they were going to count, and she counted the votes. Then she got caught. She said, all right, I'll submit it to the canvassing board. They found that 21 of them should not count. So they said, all right, let's find the 21. It's too late. Once you pull the ballot out of the envelope, there's no way to match one with the other. So that's just one example of the kinds of things that have been going on over there, on top of so much history that you've outlined already of this sort of thing. And so, yeah, it's deeply concerning that they're not following the law. They are not following the law, and that's why we have election laws. I want every legal vote that was cast in a timely fashion to count.
Exactly.
No one here is asking that not to happen. One more point, and here's where we really got to keep an eye. What will happen after the machine recount is any race in the state that's within less than a quarter of 1 point, which will be the Senate race and the agriculture race, there will have to be a hand recount of the overvotes and undervotes. Basically, did somebody skip the ballot and not vote for this race? Now, the canvassing board, if the counting teams don't do it, have to sit down and determine did the voter intend to vote or not. And that's where lawyers get involved and start arguing that a mark here and a cross there and a circle over here was voter intent. And now the statute's pretty clear about what that should be. That doesn't mean anyone's going to follow it or that they're going to follow it. So there's a lot to be concerned about, and that's why it's so important that it have scrutiny and transparency and that we watch it every step of the way.
Are you now confident that we have this? We know the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, we just spoke with. Are you confident that this will be done right? We know, for example, the attorneys for Mayor Gillum and soon-to-be ex-Senator Nelson, that they even wanted an illegal immigrants vote. They objected when they wanted that counted. And then, of course, we're finding ballots in the back of rental cars in Tampa from that county. So are you confident when they do over-under votes, if there's a mark like 400, is so far away, they're going to try and argue that those are real votes and that they intended to vote when they missed the entire oval or whatever way you do it?
Well, there's no doubt that the lawyers are going to argue that any kind of mark that favors their client, they're going to argue its intent. The statute's pretty clear. The law says if you're going to, for example, circle names as opposed to fill in the bubble, then you have to do that consistently throughout the ballot. I'm confident the lawyers are going to try to get everything counted. I don't know what the canvassing board is going to decide. I don't know what some federal judge is going to step in and decide. But that's the point. This level of incompetence gives you no confidence about anything with regard to that office, and that's why we got to keep paying attention to what's happening there.
Senator, you called everyone's attention to this. You were ahead of the curve. Thank you for standing up for a legitimate, fair, legal process. The fact that so many laws were broken has to disturb every American. Thank you, sir, for being with us tonight. That the president's legal team is almost finished with the written answers to Mueller's question. Catherine Herridge has a full report on that, and we get analysis. Greg Jarrett, Monica Crowley, and then later tonight, Jesse and Jessica, as Hannity continues. News tonight, there are reports that Trump's legal team has been preparing to hand over written answers to Mueller's team. Joining us now, live from Washington on this and much more, Fox News chief intelligence correspondent, our own Catherine Herridge. That sounds like we might be getting to the end. Catherine.
Well, that's right, Sean, and good evening. Two sources familiar with the discussions told Fox tonight that written answers are being finalized and could be submitted to the special counsel Robert Mueller and his team as early as the end of this week. Contacted by Fox, the president's lawyers had no immediate comment. We recently reported the president's legal team was preparing written responses about alleged coordination with Russia during the 2016 campaign and not obstruction of justice over the president's May 2017 firing of FBI Director James Comey. The president's legal team considers those questions infringe on the president's constitutional power to hire and fire. Returning to Capitol Hill earlier today, Democrats also ramped up attacks on Matthew Whitaker, the acting attorney general, with the Senate Judiciary Committee's ranking Democrat Dianne Feinstein calling for emergency hearings with Whitaker and former Attorney General Jeff Sessions. The committee's Republican chairman, who controls the Senate committee calendar and knows Whitaker from Iowa politics, pointed to the ongoing Justice Department ethics review.
So I think that answers it. Doesn't matter what the Democrats think. If he's going through that process, that's going to answer that question.
Senator, do you have any concerns? Do you have any concerns about the comments that Whitaker has made about the Mueller probe, and also
as long as he made him as a private citizen, no.
Sources familiar with the process tell Fox the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel plans to issue an opinion defending the Whitaker appointment and pushing back strongly against legal analysis that the appointment is unconstitutional. Sources said the opinion is expected in the coming days, possibly as early as tomorrow, Sean.
All right, Catherine Herridge with an important report tonight. Thank you. Joining us now with reaction, author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Russia Hoax, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton, framed Donald Trump. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, along with Washington Times columnist Monica Crowley, is with us. You know, if it's now written answers, that would suggest that the whole issue that we had discussed in the past about a potential subpoena of the president would not be happening. The fact that it seems exclusively to focus on the original mandate, if you will, which is Russia collusion. We have no evidence of any collusion up to this point, none whatsoever, except for Hillary Clinton. And they didn't seem to go into that too deeply, paying for the phony Russian dossier that was used to commit a fraud on a FISA court, influence the American people before the 2016 election, and then undermine the president post his victory.
So the lawyers for Donald Trump were very smart in refusing an in-person interview because even if the president tells the truth, Mueller is so unscrupulous and unprincipled, he would charge the president or accuse him of lying. So the way to go is written answers. They've also limited the scope, no obstruction of justice. So these answers to questions will only be about collusion. And the answers, quite frankly, which will be prepared by the lawyers to ensure the president isn't in legal jeopardy, will be very brief. I don't know anything about collusion. I didn't talk to Russians about the election. And the next question, the answer will be same answer as before. So it's going to be very brief. It will not put the president in legal jeopardy. It's a win for the president and his team, and a loss, as it should have been, for the guy on your screen, Robert Mueller.
Well, we know the team, the Andrew Weissmans, the Jeannie Rays, all the Democratic donors, Monica. It has never been, to me, just the appearance of the people he selected, to me, has been so over the top. I want to specifically add, the only thing we're hearing now that Jerome Corsi is suggesting that he's been told that he might face charges of lying, which would be in the vein of, I guess, Michael Flynn, although the two FBI agents claimed he never lied, and maybe Papadopoulos. But if that's it, and Roger Stone, who they want to go after, I'm not sure what that would all be about, but it doesn't seem connected to Donald Trump in any way.
Yeah, so far what we know and what we've seen from the Mueller team are essentially process crimes, right? Nothing that goes to the core of the original assignment for Robert Mueller, which was to investigate so-called Russia collusion, which our friend Greg Jarrett has called aptly the Russian hoax. They did their best during the campaign, Sean, to block Donald Trump from becoming president. Once he became president, it moved to a different phase, which was try to undermine and ultimately destroy his presidency with this investigation, which is essentially tantamount to the cover-up. Now, I'm gratified to see that the president has an excellent legal team, including a new White House counsel. Presumably, they are doing everything they can to protect the president and to defend against any kind of legal exposure here by making sure that his answers are properly done and in writing.
You know, Greg, we have spoken a lot on this program about the conflicts of interest of Rod Rosenstein. Number one, he recommended the firing of Comey. Number two, that would make him a witness, witness A. Number two, he signed the fourth and final FISA warrant, the third renewal application. And everybody is now selective moral outrage again from the media at the appointment of Matthew Whitaker to replace Jeff Sessions in the interim. Because he had said that he thought that the mandate was exceeded by Robert Mueller and a few other things. And people are actually, on other networks, lawyers are actually making the case that it's not a valid legal appointment. I called you, and you cited the Federal Vacancies Act. It is 5 U.S.C. 3345. I can read it, or you can tell everybody, whatever you prefer.
The president is authorized by Congress under the act you just cited to name somebody temporarily to head up an agency, somebody who is an official or employee who's been there for 90 days. And so Whitaker satisfies that legal standard. It is perfectly valid. It is not unconstitutional.
It says the president can appoint, according to that statute, a person holding a Senate-confirmed office or an officer or employee of such executive agency who served in a position in such agency for not less than 90 days. He meets the criteria. And these fake news attorneys, they're fake attorneys almost, are wrong again. But the double standard is obvious. All right. Thank you both. We appreciate it. When we come back, here we go again. This is getting more insane. Hillary Clinton's former advisor says she's going to run again in 2020. Jesse versus Jessica. Whose world? We'll find out next. Straight ahead.
Gingrich and Graham have must-see Florida reaction.
Hearing today that Hillary Clinton may be gearing up for a 2020 run. Former Clinton pollster Mark Penn and Andrew Stein, writing in the Wall Street Journal, said Hillary will run again. And by the way, Michelle Obama said she thinks it's a good idea. Joining us now, the co-host of The Five. This guy's got two shows. Not one show, he's got two shows. And, of course, Waters World, Jesse Waters, and Fox News contributor. She's back. She's out for blood tonight. She wants to win, Mr. Waters.
I'm nervous.
Look, I actually think if I'm Donald Trump, I'm saying run, Hillary, run, please. Because I don't think she's going to win. They ran a terrible campaign the last time. And now they're also saying she's going to reinvent herself. She's going to be a radical Hillary Clinton again. That didn't work out for Bill Clinton in 1994, did it?
I mean, if she runs, even Democrats, Sean, are going to chant, lock her up, lock her up. They don't want her to do it again. What's her slogan going to be? Still crooked? I mean, listen, she's got high negatives.
Still crooked, Hillary.
Yeah, right. She's got high negatives. Her husband's lost his fastball. The donors are getting alligator arms. They don't want to throw money into a losing effort. She's got that losing stench still. She can't clear the field. The media is in love with Beto. I don't see where she's going here at all.
Mm-hmm. You know, look, Jessica, if that's who you want, tell me who you think, your top 3, 4 people that would be able to challenge Trump and do well. Who do you think?
Oh, interesting. My top 3 people, well, my dream ticket is Kamala Harris and Sherrod Brown as her VP candidate.
Sounds like a nightmare.
To you,
Nightmare.
Because
I'm
you will
Jesse.
lose. I think Sherrod Brown should definitely be in the mix there. Al Franken probably would have been if he hadn't been pushed out of the Senate. Some of these new faces are exciting. I think that there is an argument to be made for someone with executive experience. So looking at a big city mayor like an Eric Garcetti, Mitch Landrieu, for instance, someone with gubernatorial experience, maybe John Hickenlooper. I know you guys are getting excited just hearing about all this. And can I say something, though, about that
I'm waiting
op-ed?
for Spartacus to run.
Yeah, what about Pocahontas and Spartacus? I like that ticket.
I don't really need that this evening. Can I just say about the op-ed, though, this coming from Mark Penn, who lost the 2008 election for Hillary Clinton and is persona non grata in Clinton world, and Andy Stein, who is the head of Democrats for Trump.
Let me ask you this.
It's unbelievable.
I watched it. We played this tape in my opening monologue of Monica Lewinsky. She's doing this documentary. She gave this interview. And she said, if I saw Hillary Clinton, I would find the strength to go up and apologize again to her. That is stunning grace. That was amazing. She was the intern here. And her life's been turned upside down. We saw her crying in this documentary. And Bill Clinton said when asked, no, I don't need to apologize for her. How does between that, all the other Clinton women, Juanita, Kathleen, Paula, Democrats let him get away with it? Why? Why can't he just say, if I apologize, you want an apology, you deserve one, I'll give you one?
Oh, I don't know. I think that he absolutely should have apologized to her. I think that Hillary Clinton should have also said that it was a mistake and it was an abuse of power. That's fundamental to the Me Too movement.
She said she never got it, Jesse. Never.
No, she never got the apology.
I'm saying that they should have apologized.
No, she never got the apology. And let's remember, Hillary ran that war room where they fought those bimbo eruptions. And that's a so-called bimbo eruption. That's not even my language. They called her a floozy, a psycho, a grifter, and a clinger. And so the Me Too movement totally boomeranged on the Clintons, and they should own up to it.
Yeah. Jessica, last word.
Oh, my last word is that maybe Donald
ahead.
Trump could also apologize to all of the women that he has taken advantage of.
What do you mean, Miss USA? He gave those women a lot of opportunities, Jessica. Come on.
You are now on record.
Come on. He cherishes women.
Stop. He does not cherish women.
I'm going to tell you what. It's been a while since we've had you on. For the first time ever.
And on a Me Too evening?
Tie.
It's a tie.
Oh, a tie?
A tie.
Okay.
Nobody's world today.
I want to recount. I want to recount.
All right, when we come back, Rush Limbaugh, amazing take. This is amazing. What is really the motivating factor behind the recount in Florida? That's straight ahead as we continue. Take a listen.
So which party is it that will not accept the results of elections? Which party is it trying to undermine our faith in elections? And by the way, do you think what's going on in Florida is really all about these two races here, the governor race and the Senate race? I mean, it is, but there's something much bigger at stake as well, and that's 2020. I think there is. I think if we stick at this long enough, if we dig deep enough to find out what they're actually doing here, I think the Democrats are trying to set the stage for some kind of election law change or adjustment that they think they're going to need in 2020.
Great points as usual. All right, that is all the time we have left this evening. We give Russ the last word. We'll always be fair and balanced without the Destroy Trump media. Yeah, we're different. And thank you for always being with us. And let not your heart be troubled, because standing by in the swamp, Laura Ingraham.
I have my boots on. I can always stand in the swamp. Those big waders, when you're a kid, you go out fishing. They come up. Yeah,
Tucker likes to go fly fishing. Do you do that?
Yeah, I'm doing that every weekend, Hannity, with the 3 kids. I'm flying
I tried
to
it once with Dick
weekend.
Cheney. I'm like, this is way too much work. Where's the beer?
It's too much. By the way, I can't believe Brenda Snipes didn't come on with you tonight. She was on another network.
Amazing. I mean,
you're very charming. So I don't know why she wouldn't have come on with you.
She says she's never had any controversy at all. She doesn't know how this happened. Just, 75, 80,000 ballots just magically appear. No problem. No law is obeyed.
It's very unfair of you to even bring that uncomfortable topic up, Hannity, but I loved your show tonight.
Bad host.
Bad host. Great show, Hannity. I'll talk to you later.
Show.
All right, I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham